In the city made of stone, I hear the sirens moan. I can't escape the beating question, where do I belong? The boundary lines lie before me. I cross into the unknown. I try to leave my fears behind me, try to carry on. Every day sing a song of praise. We've come this far by grace. And when you pray to find your way, love will lead the way. in the shadows of the valley. Tears mingle with rain. A shining light will break my darkness, and mercy will remain. Bless the many souls who raised me, the living and the late, and tell my loved ones not to worry. My love will conquer hate. Every day sing a song of praise. We've come this far by grace. And when you pray to find your place, love will lead the way. Ooh, love will lead the way. Love will lead the way. Ooh, love will lead the way. Good evening. It is wonderful to see you all. We will open tonight singing together, Come, Open Spirit. Please stand as you are able. The band will play and we will sing. Come, open Spirit, come, come and open me. Let my open spirit come closer unto thee. Blow through my soul and let your vessel be me. Come, O open Spirit, come.
Welcome seekers, welcome sinners, welcome singers, good and bad. Welcome Christians, welcome questioners, welcome all who seek the heart of God. Welcome queer, welcome trans, welcome all whose lives and loves cannot be put into square lines. Welcome Ipswich Youth Group. Welcome old timers. Welcome to you. You are a blessing just being in this gathering. If you're here for the first time or even the fourth, You have a black friendship pad somewhere near you, and I'd invite you to pick that up, write your name in it, and if you write an email address or a phone number, we can be in touch with you to learn more about the journey that led you here and to let you know more about our life here at Old South. Welcome to this sanctuary in time and in space. Welcome to jazz. Welcome to the family.
Come, open Spirit, come, come and open me. Let my open spirit come closer unto thee. Blow through my soul and let your vessel be me. Come, O open spirit, come.
Friends, we bring ourselves before God now, praying the words that are in your bulletin together. The night draws near. We take refuge in this sanctuary. O Spirit, gather us. Bring ease to our hurried thoughts. Draw us into a deeper presence. O love, shelter us. In the silence, we confess our sins and lay down our burdens. O God, forgive and heal us. Beloved, there is rest for our souls. There is freedom in forgiveness. Grace flows as a river, and our healing is at hand. Amen.
Let's sing together. You'll see your music insert. Come and find the quiet center. Come and find the quiet center in the crowded life we lead. Find the room for hope to enter. Find the frame where we are free. Clear the chaos and the clutter. Clear our eyes that we can see all the things that really matter. Be at peace and simply be. Silence is a friend who claims us, cools the heat and slows the pace. God it is who speaks and names us, knows our being, touches base, making space within our thinking, lifting shades to show the sun, raising courage when we're shrinking, finding scope for faith to begun. In the Spirit, let us travel, open to each other's pain. Let our loves and fears unravel, celebrate grace we gain. There's a place for deepest dreaming. There's a place for heart to care. In the Spirit's lively scheming, there is always room to share.
There's a place for deepest dreaming, and I hope this is part of that place for you. Please have a seat, be comfortable. This Lent, we've been remembering old songs, the Psalms. Last week, Pastor Ashley took us back to the 23rd Psalm, the one who makes me lie down in green pastures, who leads me beside the still waters. Beloved, familiar words that you almost want to lean into the piano and sing along with. The words of the old songs that inscribe themselves on our souls. And Lent is for remembering what God is like in those times. I heard it said once that no movement of human liberation ever succeeded in the absence of songs. And I believe it. I feel those movements even now, looking back through history, riding on the waves of those old songs. Well, you've heard me here say before that religion is the spilling of poetry. I didn't say that. Somebody else, a poet, said that, but I love that. Religion is the spilling of poetry. And after it's been spilled, one of the best things to do with it is float it up on some breath, some notes. Well, we can't leave Lent without a sojourn in that other part of our memory. Not the green pastures, still waters part, but the wilderness part, the depths part, the darkness part. Willie said this in his blog this week. Willie said that darkness sometimes gets a bad rap. And I think that's true. So there'll be more to say about darkness and blessing in a few minutes. But we can't leave this Lent without remembering those other songs, the ones that welled up in us when we were afraid or lonely or bereft or guilty. Lent is for remembering what God is like in those times too. So I have another old song for you, Spill a Little Poetry. This is Psalm 130 in a wonderful translation by the great scholar of Hebrew poetry, Stephen Mitchell. He's not a scholar of Hebrew poetry. He's a Hebrew poet who happens to write in English and be able to translate. So here's his version of Psalm 130. Out of the depths, Lord, I call you. Out of the depths. Let me feel you even in this darkness. Take away my affliction or give me strength to endure. If all our mistakes were indelible, which of us could survive? But you have forgiven us, even when we cannot forgive ourselves. So I listen for you. My soul listens like a deer in the forest. My soul waits more intently than a sentry watching for the dawn. More intently than a sentry watching for the dawn. Answer me. Open my heart so that I can wholly receive you, and teach me that when I'm ready, you will let this suffering pass. Out of the depths I call to you. Out of the depths. De profundis in Latin. From the deep places where our voices feel very small and far away and maybe hard to hear. From the far side of a great distance, from the midst of immersion in something that weighs on us, something that needs mending, something that needs healing. Maybe something we did or something we didn't do, something we wish hadn't happened, something that needs to be finished or begun. From the depths, de profundis, deep calls to deep. This dark splash of poetry is full of the ache to be known, isn't it? The ache to be understood. It comes from a place of wanting to be heard, longing to be heard, hoping to be heard. When have you wanted, needed, hoped to be heard? Though the word patience doesn't appear in that particular old song, it's a song full of waiting. And the poet W.H. Auden said that the most real thing about us is that we're waiting. This old song sings from a deep place where you know how real you are by how earnestly you're waiting. Waiting for something deep, waiting to be heard, known, embraced, made whole. Here's what Stephen Mitchell says about the way that voice speaks from the depths. The Psalms speak to us as both poetry and prayer. Some of them are very great poems. But as prayer, even the greatest poems are inadequate. Pure prayer begins at the threshold of silence. Pure prayer says nothing, asks nothing. It's a kind of listening. And the deeper the listening, the less we listen for, until silence itself becomes the voice of God. The deeper the listening, the less we listen for, until silence itself becomes the voice of God. This old song really doesn't ever climb out of that deep place. It stays there for all 8 of its verses, never really surfaces into the cheery light of day and the green pastures of spring that are coming soon, please God. And there's that line in there, that double line. I wonder if you heard it. I'm so moved. I'm still trying to figure out why. So moved by that double line. More intently than the sentry waits for the morning. And then again, more intently than the sentry waits for the morning. I mean, what does it take in the Bible to get a line repeated twice? What's that about? More intently than the sentry watches for the morning. I don't know if you've ever watched for the morning starting in the darkness, but it doesn't come like the flipping of a switch. You know that. Light, it doesn't even come by pushing the darkness back along a line of scrimmage or something. No, light and dark at dusk and dawn almost seem like they're part of the same thing. As though every atom of, air, as though every atom is just slowly turning itself, infinitesimally, almost as though the light and the dark are trying to get us to understand them to be part of the same thing. Different parts of the same thing, light and dark. Almost as though sometimes God is most present of all in the depths of the darkness. Sometimes God almost seems like part of the atomic structure of light and darkness itself, waiting to turn as we long for it to turn, lean toward its turning. The deeper the listening, the less we listen for, until silence itself becomes the voice of God. And that's where darkness gets a bad rap. Sometimes God does some of God's best work in the darkness as we lean toward the turning in the depths. Sometimes it's the waiting, the leaning, the longing, the hoping that teaches us who we are. Sometimes we know who we are by what we're longing for, what we're listening for. And the old songs we sing on the way to keep ourselves going, to keep those waves of liberation coming, don't just come from the green pastures. Oh, they do come from the green pastures, but not just from the green pastures. Sometimes they come from the deep places, de profundis, maybe the dark places or the murky, uncertain places. And we need our old songs, not just when the cup of well-being runneth over, but we need them also to help us hear the sound of our own longing voices and to know we're there, even in the thick of it, de profundis, to tell the truth of our real life in the longing and the waiting. I was thinking about these different kinds of songs in these 2 weeks, the green pastures and the de profundis, noticing how they're both, I don't know, inscribed in me. Are they inscribed in you? I was thinking about that this week, and I realized that I wanted to bring something to show you. It's a really precious thing or things to me. On the night of my ordination, a really long time ago, one of the realest people I've ever known gave me a pair of sea stones with some words written on them to hold on to. The words tell 2 different truths about the way life is. 2 things that seem to contradict each other. Maybe you've heard these words before. My friend said that these words come from the depths of Jewish wisdom. And she said that if you keep these 2 true things with you wherever you go, one in each pocket maybe, well, you can't lose your balance, and you might be able to find your way through life as the atoms turn. Maybe you'll be able to recognize what's real about life and what's real about yourself in the midst of life, de profundis, what's real about God. So on the night of my ordination, my friend gave me 2 stones to hold on to, except that over the years I've discovered that actually it's the other way around. These stones are holding on to me. The stones say, I am dust and ashes, and for me this world was created. I am dust and ashes, and for me this world was created. These words come from Rabbi Simcha Bunim, a great Polish Hasidic master at the end of the 18th century. And Rabbi Bunim said, everyone must have 2 pockets with a note in each pocket, so that he or she can reach into one or the other depending on the need. When feeling lowly or depressed, discouraged or disconsolate, de profundis, one could reach into one pocket and there find the words Bishvili nivra ha'olam, the world was created for me, which is from the Sanhedrin. But then when feeling high and mighty, one could reach into the other pocket and find the words Va'anochi afar va'afer, I am but dust and ashes, which are words that come from Father Abraham. The old songs that we ride into the future this Lent and all the time. The old songs that say what Brian Stevenson says. Brian Stevenson, the great advocate of our time. We are none of us reducible to the worst thing we've done. I am dust and ashes. For me, this world was created. The old song that says what the most ancient wisdom says, which is when we call out to God from the depths of our lives, God is already there. God gets us out of it by stepping into it. The old songs that say what another old hymn says, a hymn I love, written by a person who had known life-threatening despair, but who from the very depths spilled some poetry. God moves in a mysterious way, great wonders to perform. God plants a footstep in the sea and rides upon the storm. Deep in unfathomable minds of never-failing skill, God treasures up such bright designs to work God's sovereign will. You fearful saints, fresh courage take. The clouds you so much dread are big with mercy and shall break in blessings on your head. We are dust and ashes, and for us, this world was created.
Darkness, darkness, be my pillow. Take my hand and let me sleep in the coolness of your shadow, in the silence of your deep. Darkness, darkness, hide my yearning for the things that cannot be. Take away this constant turning toward the things I cannot see now, things I this darkness, long and lonesome, is the day that brings me pain. I have felt the edge of sadness. I have known the depth of fear. Darkness, darkness, be my blanket. Cover me with the endless night. Take away the pain of knowing. Fill the emptiness of right now. Emptiness of right now. Darkness, darkness, be my pillow. Take my hand and let me sleep in the coolness of your shadow, in the silence of your deep. Darkness, darkness, be my blanket. Cover me with the endless night. Take away the pain of knowing, and fill the emptiness of right now. The emptiness of right now. Emptiness of right now.
Amen. Friends, let us gather our hearts together in prayer. Holy God, help us to know that the darkness too is holy, that womb-like it shelters us, allows us to grow out of sight of the mean critique of the light. Grant us awe at all that night holds. O loving God, when the storms of our lives rage on and things are beyond our control, be our solid ground. Root us firmly in your love for us and your call on our lives, that we are from love, of love, and for love. We are yours. In this truth, let us rest. Creator God, we know that you are present with us, that you perceive the prayers of our hearts, even those that evade our language. And so we lift to you our prayers now in the shelter of this space. In the silence that comes, you're invited to speak your prayer aloud. I'll do my best to restate your prayer so that the folks who are joining us online can hear. And then I'll say, God, in your mercy, and together we'll say, hear our prayer. Let us bring our lives before our Creator now. For all of the abandoned babies of our world, God, in your mercy. For Vera, to stay strong, God, in your mercy. For the people of Ukraine, God, in your mercy. The bodies who are still being uncovered in Turkey from the earthquake and all who bear such loss. God, in your mercy. For Henry and for his family, God, in your mercy. For those recovering from surgery, God, in your mercy. For Marcia, God, in your mercy. For those in East Denver High School, and for that whole neighborhood, God, in your mercy. For the life of Eleanor Yo and all who celebrate her life and grieve her death. God, in your mercy. For Helen, for return to good health. God, in your mercy. Holy God, wrap us in your love. Help us to trust that your love does find us, even in the dark, even in the light. Your love seeks us even as we seek you. Gather up our prayers into your ever-widening heart now.
It is well with my soul. It is well. It's well with my soul.
It was on a Thursday night in a room perhaps not so different from this one, but with anger and fear swirling all around it, that Jesus gathered with his beloved friends, and knowing that he spoke to them and with them from the depths, he invited them to a table very like this one, spread with the most basic foods for nourishment, full of the suffused power of old songs, gathered them together to nourish them for all that would come, all of the light and all of the darkness and all of the murkiness in between. He gathered them together knowing that they would need to hold and remember the strength of this meal and its affirmation that for them, even they, dust and ashes, for them, God created the world. And so, remembering his gathering with his friends that night, we take common bread and we give thanks and we break it, because in order to share it, you have to break it. And then remembering, we take the cup just as he did. The cup, the ancient symbol of joy and celebration, which he filled and said to them, "Take all of you, drink. This cup is the New Testament sealed in my life, poured out for you. Do this and remember me." And so we do. Now, this bread that I've broken contains gluten, so if that's not good for you, we'll have gluten-free bread available at a station just here in the center. And the chalices all contain unfermented grape juice. So there's no obstacle, none at all, between you and these gifts of God's grace. But if there's some part of you that's not sure, maybe you don't belong to this church or any church, maybe you're in flux about what you believe or don't believe, or maybe the words De Profundis sound like a familiar place to you. Well, remember this. On that night when he gave them and us this meal to remember him by, there was one gathered there who would very shortly thereafter deny him. There was one gathered there who would even betray him. And there was one gathered there who would openly express doubt about him. And even within just a few hours of that meal that they had together, every single one of them would have fled into the shadows of that night and deserted him. And yet, knowing that about them and about each of us, all of us, still he welcomed them to that table. So we believe here at Old South that if he would eat with them, he would eat with us. And glory, hallelujah for that. So we'll prepare to serve at stations here and here. We hope you'll approach using the side aisles. We'll serve you a piece of bread. You can dip it into the cup and receive both elements together at the same time. Then find your way back to your seat using the center aisle. I feel like I'm on an airplane. You can use the center aisle. And on your way back to your seat, if you pass one of the candle stands, maybe you'll want to light a candle for a prayer that hasn't found its way into words yet. Or you can stop at our Lenten loom over there and even write a prayer and weave it in if you'd like to. So we'll prepare to serve, and then we'll beckon you to come forward and keep the joyful feast of the people of God.
friends, we come now to a time of offering. We give because God asks us to. And if that's not quite enough reason for you, I know it's not some days. We also give because someone gave to us. Someone gave us a stone that we would need for most of our lives. Someone gave us a good word when we needed it, or a smile. We give to support the work of this church. We give because we've found shelter here and we want to say thank you. And we want to extend that shelter to someone else. A stranger walking in from the street in search of beauty and grace will come through those doors and find the shelter that you found. Perhaps God's healing will sneak in the quiet of a sanctuary. Perhaps God's grace will find its way to their heart in the movement of a song. Perhaps God's love will find its way to their spirit in the kind smile that lets them know that they too belong here. They too have a home right here among us. Tonight's offering will be given and received.
I love the imagery that Pastor Rick gave us of riding waves of songs. So for our singing together at this point, we have a chant to offer to join in together. And this really can create waves within us. And the whole idea behind a chant is to let our minds rest. As we sing it, as we repeat the melody and the words, we don't need to think about it as much as we go on. And the Holy Spirit inspiration can rise within us. That is our goal. So we're going to sing this song and we're going to repeat it. And I actually think that if we can only rise in spirit, we might let our bodies sink into this chant bit together, if that's all right. And then we'll stand afterwards. So we'll listen to the band play this melody, and then we'll begin, and we will repeat, and I will guide you through. Within our darkest night, you kindle the fire that never dies, a way that never dies, a way. Within our darkest night, you kindle the fire that never dies, a way that never dies, a way. Within our darkest night, you kindle the fire that never dies, a way that never dies, a way. Within our darkest night, you kindle the fire that never dies, a way that never Please now stand in body and in spirit.
You fearful saints, fresh courage take. The clouds you so much dread are big with blessings and shall break with mercy on your head. So go forth into the world, and the God who makes you, loves you, keeps you, will go with you to show you the work that is before you, the love that is around you, the hope that blooms within you. Go in peace.
Our service is over. Let our service begin. Fed by mystery, forgiven of sin. Now our faith made real. When brokenness we heal. Our service is over. Let our service begin.
There's a big, waiting world out there that needs the energy of hope and love and leaning that we've been cultivating in here. But there's a room full of peace that God has planted in all of our hearts here. So don't go out into that world until you've greeted those in this world with the greeting of peace. And be sure and stop and get at least one cookie at the table back there. And make sure that you take the announcements sheet that's stuck in your bulletin too, because it's full of all kinds of news of fun stuff and important stuff that's happening at this church. Let us go in peace to love and to serve. Thanks be to God.